record this. There we go. It's now being recorded. So you've said hello, and that's very nice of you to say hello. I want to understand a little bit, what are your current challenges when it comes to getting out there, when it comes to speaking? Like, what is it for you that is currently between you, let's say, enrolling people to work with you or not? What is it for you? If you want to type that in the chat room, or you can jump on the mic, up to you. What's your biggest obstacle? Oh, there you are, Julie. Nice to see you. Oh, such a nice smile. You should come
Sorry,
more
I'm
often.
having my tea.
I see. That's what it is. Cool. So what are your obstacles? Let's have a look. There's Andrew saying hello. Everybody's typing. I can hear typage.
Elliot?
Yes.
Mine is to get people to take action, like you said, to get off their virtual butts.
That's your biggest challenge. Okay, cool. And what you'll find as we go through the structure, that the structure very easily lends itself to do that without being pushy, without being, sleazy and a douchebag. So that's the good news about this structure you learned today. What about you, Janetta? Any challenges at all? Does anyone run to the back of the virtual room and sign up for you? Speaking concisely and impact and confidence, similar to, where did I go? Andrew, finding the right audience. Great. Speaking concisely. I saw that. My confidence and fear of public speaking. Okay, Lola, that's good. Janetta, what's your biggest challenge? Or do you have any challenges?
In speaking?
Yeah. What's your biggest challenge right now with speaking?
Just that I would like to get more onto actual stage, because I've done online presentations till before Granny fell off that bus. So it would be nice to get out there and use my new signature talks out there. But otherwise, I'm just loving what I'm doing. And I have to give a plug to Elliot and Speaker Express, because I've talked for years, but this new structure is inspiring, and it's a wonderful way to reinvent yourself for yourself, apart from for your clients. So I highly recommend anybody new here today, go for this. It's really, really beneficial.
Thanks. I didn't realize you was going to say that, honestly. But thank you, Janetta.
He paid me nicely.
Oh, yes. Virtual. I paid it in virtual pounds. So my biggest challenge is connecting to people outside my immediate context. Fabulous. And actually remind me, Sophie, if I haven't talked about it, remind me to talk about 10-10-10. Okay. Just that's a nudge. And you, Sarah, remind me, talk about 10-10-10. So at Speaker Express, what we love doing is we love working with business owners and entrepreneurs of a variety of caliber. So in this picture, you have tech entrepreneurs, you have consultants, you have trainers, you have a campaigner. Emily Hunt was recently in the news because she helped actually change the law around voyeurism, and then she managed to actually prosecute her attacker. We have a chef there, we have an influencer, and then we have someone that came with us with just knew she wanted to speak. And then what we did is we worked with her, and now she's done TEDx's, and she's gone across the road with her speaking. Everything we do is based around the speaker's method, confidence. It's not just the confidence to present. I want to be clear on that. When we look at confidence, we look at the confidence to sell. We look at the confidence to deal with what can come at you as well. So it's a two-way thing. Brand message. How do you communicate your message in line with your brand to attract your ideal customer when you're speaking? Signature talk. You're going to learn about that tonight. How do you get more bookings? What are the key components? What are the steps to get more bookings? Even in the current world, I'm working very closely with 2 bureaus right now, and they are telling me this. There are just as many speaking opportunities, paid and unpaid, out there right now, if not more than there were before, right? And these are people that place people like Richard Branson and Alan Sugar. They're fairly in the know. So I just want to reassure all of you that. Pitch and sales. How do you sell from stage? How do you overcome objections in a way that allows people to want to work with you when you finish the talk? And how do you use it to build your profile? How do you speaking to raise your profile? Equally, how do you use your profile to get speaking gigs? So we've trained a variety of people. Our heart and our soul is with entrepreneurs and business owners. because we believe that you are the people that are going to make the change. If I, as much as we would like politicians to do that, fill in the blank, right? So we love working with business owners and entrepreneurs to really use speaking, to get out there, to use their voice for good, to impact industries, and to really make a change from the ground up. We've worked with a variety of accelerators, with startups, with established businesses, but the heart of everything we do are entrepreneurs like me. I forgot to mention, by the way, have I mentioned? I'll mention it in a minute. So this is Club Night. We also have other offering. We do a one-day training, which is Speak, Influence, Sell Live, which I'll tell you about a bit later. We're also launching the 10K speaker training, which is an online course. And of course, we have our 6-month Speak to Influence Accelerator, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. Here's what I want to reassure you. Wherever you are, whether you're currently at the beginning of the journey or you're already speaking or you're in that thought leadership space, maybe you're an expert. And I think a lot of you on this call are on this, or you're already in the influencer space. What we really want to get everybody to come across as is an authority, is to really come across as someone that owns their space, that stands out from the competition, that you're not just vanilla and blending in, that you're really a figure of authority. And for us, it goes back to the speaker's method, but of course, it's something that you need to do on a regular basis. So wherever you're on your journey, we want to take you to your next level. And I really want you to start, if you're not already doing this, start thinking yourselves as experts that speak, because something that's becoming very, very apparent in the current climate is people that are looking for speakers, they're actually looking for experts, and they're looking for implementation and not information. So if you didn't know that already, please be aware of that. So people don't want more information, they want implementation, and they want experts to guide their audiences on that. So keep that in mind as well, please. Talked about that a little bit. If you didn't know, I'm Elliot, the co-founder of Speaker Express. I run the UK division. I've got over 7,000 hours of public speaking delivery. I was also an assistant public speaker trainer. You can see this is an old slide because, yes, I have a bestseller with Power to Succeed. But as of the 20th of August, I'm a 2-time best-selling author with my new book, Speaking Fluent Sell, which I strategically happen to have right here.
Can't see it.
So, what's that?
Oh.
Yes. So there we go. So I'm glad to say that. And I mentor the Printers Trust. I love giving back. So for the last 8 years, actually, every month I work with people in the Printers Trust. I want to just take you through some mistakes that a lot of people make when they're using speaking or not doing before we get into the nitty gritty, right? First thing they think it's all about I'm confident. I don't need to grow because I'm already confident. You might know someone like that, but let me tell you, when you're integrating speaking to really move to an authority, it's much more than just confidence, right? We work with plenty of confident people. That's one part of it. But it's also the confidence to go to another level. It's the confidence to communicate in a different way. And of course, it's the confidence to sell as well, right? So keep that in mind. The other thing, of course, is not taking any time to practice. Yes, that's an important element of it. If you're going to go to another level, if you're going to take your craft seriously, you got to put in the hours, right? And this is recent, by the way. This came from research we did with some of our speakers. Another one is unclear brand message. What do you stand for? What problem do you solve? Why you? How are you distinct? What's your brand story? A lot of people don't share that. They don't tell it well. And also not selling well or thinking it's a different section than the talk. Something I want you to understand is the moment you open your mouth, you're selling. You're always selling. You're always selling. You're selling yourself. You're selling your brand. You're selling your services. You're selling your company. So you're always, always selling. I want you to be aware of that. And of course, you've got to prioritize it now in this current climate because you're probably doing more speaking than you've ever done. You might not think that you're doing speaking, but if you're on Zoom on a regular basis, if you're speaking to clients on a regular basis, if you're pitching on a regular basis, then you're speaking, right? You might not be doing talks like this, or you might not be communicating, with communities, but you're speaking, right? So please be aware of that and do prioritize and give it the time it needs. So a lot of the businesses we work with and come across tend to have various common problems, right? So we work with entrepreneurs, as you know, marketing, branding trainers, lawyers, accountants, investors, yes, a variety of people, social media experts. The problems they all seem to have in common are these. Which one do you relate to the most? Put that in the chat. Is it low speaking impact? You speak, nothing happens. No conversions, not enough stage time. Again, we talked about unclear brand message. Maybe a fluffy pitch. People don't quite get what you do. You leave them a bit confused. Who here is guilty of forgetting to pitch? Yes, and not enough quality leads. Which one do you relate to the most? Not enough quality leads, not enough practice, not enough quality leads. Okay. I want to tell you a very quick story, actually. Not enough leads, I think that's meant to say. So it's all about the leads versus leads. Very different, Sarah. Not enough leads. So here's an interesting, you might have heard this story, but this father comes home and tells his daughter, leads has to be the problem to start with. It can be. This father comes home and tells his daughter, goes, take my car and I want you to sell it to the highest bidder. So she goes to the car dealer, the nearest car dealer, and the nearest car dealer looks at the car and goes, it's a nice car, it's an old car, I'll give you £1,000. So she goes home and says, Daddy, we got offered £1,000. He's like, take it somewhere else and get an offer. So she takes it to a pawnbroker, and the pawnbroker looks at the car and goes, I'll give you £100. She's like, well, we've been offered $1,000. I don't think it's a great deal. She takes it home. And then her dad says, listen, where else could you take the car that we might get a better offer? So she thinks, what if I took it to a car club? Maybe we'll get a better deal. So she does. She takes the car to the car club. And the car club, they offer £100,000 for the car. Why? It's an antique. It's vintage. It was a special car, but of course, only people who were the right people knew the value of that car. So if you're all struggling with leads, are you speaking in the right places? Is your brand message landing on the right people? Is your signature talk attracting the right audience? I want you to think about that. Because remember, when we speak, we have two people in the room. We have the audience that will clap and love and like you. But you also have your market in the room. And you need to make sure that your market is the one that responds to your talk. We love to be applauded and clapped. That's without a saying. But it's your market you're talking to. So if you're not getting quality leads, are you taking your car to the right places? And are you presenting your car in front of the right people? Do you like that story? Give me a why if you like that story. I love that story. So let's go through our 7-step to sell yourselves and get lots of quality leads, right? And this goes across markets, by the way. This signature works regardless. And it can work in a 15-minute context. It can work in an hour. As long as you're speaking and you want to enroll people, yeah, this structure works. So step number 1 is your opening, right? And what is important with your opening is it needs to be different. It needs to capture attention. It needs to get the audience thinking quickly. Most people open like this. Hi, my name's Elliot Kay. I'm a public speaker trainer. I've got over 7,000 hours of speaking. I'm also a best-time selling author. Blah, 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 blah. What have I done the moment I've opened like that? What have I done, people? Right, downhill. But I've made it about me. I've made the opening about me. What you want to do with the opening is enroll the audience and show them that they're in the right place. Yeah? You too. You too what, Julie? You too. It's not a hashtag Me Too moment, is it? I haven't said anything really offensive, have I?
No, I said I'm guilty of that when you were talking about.
Oh,
yeah.
And oh, got it. Sorry, I didn't see that part. I see. Got it. It's like, no, what have I done? What have I done? I'm so extra careful these days. You know what? On that topic very quickly, I watched Bombshell on Netflix last week, And I've been mega careful since watching Bombshell. Not that there's anything to worry about. Anyway, let's bring it back. I digress. So your opening, you want to disrupt, you want to capture, you want to get the audience thinking. You want to very quickly display to people they're in the right place. One of the best example, of course, of I felt was a disruptive, yes, warm opening was Levi Roots when he did his pitch on Dragon's Den. He walked up with his guitar, he was singing about his source, and he enrolled the investors straight away into him. Once you've got the opening, you very quickly have to show the audience that you get their problem and you can articulate it in their way. Again, because most people talk about the problem from how they understand it. If you want to enroll people to work with you, then you need to demonstrate you get their problem from their modality of the world. And you can facilitate the understanding of that. So, you know, it depends what I'm talking about, but I'm very quickly, when I've done my opening, I'm like, the problem is that most people don't really understand how speaking can enroll people to want to buy from them. They find selling a bit sleazy. They think you have to be pushy. Or what they tend to do is they focus on delivering great content, hoping that by giving them great content, people will jump up off their seats and want to work with you. Now, while that might happen to the odd or two people, generally speaking, that doesn't happen. So that's how I would very quickly demonstrate the problem. Because you see at the beginning, I very quickly demonstrate the problems that people have. And you're all related mostly to the leads part, right? So you need to show us, the audience, we're very selfish people, the market in the audience, that you get us, yes? Because we're sitting there going, what's in it for me? Why should I care? Can I trust you? What's in it for me? Why should I care? Can I trust you? Now, if you have a solid opening and you can demonstrate that you've got my problems, that you get me, then I'm going to be interested to hear what you're saying. Step number 3 is where you would then introduce yourself. That's where you've earned the right. And earn the right is where you'd say, hi, I'm Elliot Kay. And that's where people are like, okay, who's this guy speaking to me? If you haven't been introduced. So that's where you would bring in your credibility. You do your kind of CV, like 7,000 hours. This is what I do. This is how many people I've worked with. Because I've got your attention. I've earned the right to tell you who I am a bit more. Then step number 4, you need to show me that not only do you get my problem, that you have my solution. And one of the most effective ways to demonstrate the solution is to show the customer the journey you take them on. Now, if it's really complicated, complex structure you have or customer journey, simplify it, make it easy. So I've worked with a tree, I've got to get this right, tree consultant, right? And he's telling me, well, we basically kind of show up and, you know, we have a call and we check the mud and we do. And I was like, that is your process. So what you need to do is be able to explain that in different steps. So then suddenly at a 5-step process that he takes the customer on. Because what we want to understand very easily is that you have the solution. If it's too complicated, our brains switch off, right? If it's not solid enough and it doesn't actually show me that you get the problem, we'll switch off. So equally, when you're using a talk that you want to enroll people to work with you, then you've got to demonstrate you got a solution. And that's where a lot of people fail, because they don't make the solution simple enough for your audience to understand. Of course, it's clear to you. You do this all the time. But if it's the first time you hear it, or, you know, then what's important is we can process it. So remember, this whole talk structure is about you enrolling your market. Then step number 5 is using a story that is appropriate to your market that's in the audience. Yeah. So it's using a story that's appropriate to the market in your audience. And you want that story to magnify why you're the person speaking about what you're speaking, to have the problem within it, and also to demonstrate why you have the solution. So there's 5 different stories you can use. I will give them to you. I will not leave you on a cliffhanger like that. Yes. Story number 1, your credibility. Yes. The story of your credibility of how you got to where you are today. Story number 2, I will take questions at the end, by the way. Story number 2, your personal story, adversity, your big why, how you end up doing what you're doing, which a lot of people do use. But remember, you're using this to magnify that you get the problem, that you have the solution, and you're the person to talk about this. A lot of people, when they talk personal story, they talk about themselves. They make it self-indulgent. That is very off-putting for an audience, right? So story number 1, credibility. Story number 2, personal story. Story number 3 is your business origin idea or your business origin. So how did you get going with the business? How did you grow the business? Everything around the business story equally could be your brand story, right? Step number 4. Story number 4 is your success stories or case studies. And story number 5 is the ability to tell a story of your vision and or your mission, right? Because a lot of people want to know where you're going with your business, how you're going to fit into an industry. And that also works for people because they want to see the big picture and where you're going to take them. So those are the stories you could use. Now, of course, how you deliver it and things like that is important as well. Then step number 6 is content. Now, there's 2 types of content that work within this structure. There's either you educate people on the solution you talked about in number 4. So you go much more in depth. So for example, I talked to you about our speakers method. So in step 6, I might go deep into confidence, into brand story, into signature talk, deep. And I educate the audience about the solution in a way that enrolls them to want to work with me because people are looking for implementation, not just information anymore, right? YouTube, Google, they've changed that. There's information about everything out there, but to implement is different. The second type of content is you drill down the pain of not solving the problem on step 2, right? So that's the 2 ways you can do it. 1, you educate them on your solution, or 2, you drill down the pain of not solving the problems. And then step 7, if you've done 1 to 6 really well, step 7 is really easy. And that is simply going, did you like what you heard? Yes. Did you get value? Yes. Great. Is it okay if I tell you how we can carry on working together? If you've done 1 to 6 properly, the answer from the majority of people will be yes. Doesn't mean everybody's going to jump on it, but the majority of people will be yes. And that's where you have your slight pitch. Now, again, it depends on your time, on what you're selling, but that's where your call to action is. But you've done all the selling from step 1 to 6. So it isn't suddenly a separate section that suddenly you go serious and into sales and that's it, I'm selling now and I'm really like, oh, right? I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. Actually, it's just like you've made the cake, yeah, from 1 to 6. 7 is just putting the topping on the top and maybe a little bit of a cherry. That's all it is. So I think what happens, I know, is people go from 1 to 6 and they're like really cool. And then step 7, they stiffen or they get weird or awkward or the energy is a bit off because suddenly you think you're selling, but you've been selling from step number 1. Years ago, I did one of my one-day trainings. And this is when I used to be a coach. I don't coach anymore as such. I do public speaking coaching, but this is when I was in the personal development confidence space. And everyone came back and I was selling. And suddenly I became very serious. And I was like, this is selling. And if you don't sign up and la, 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 la. It was very like militant almost. And I finished my pitch and I used a flip chart and I turned around and everyone's like this. Literally sat back with their arms folded. And I was like, what's wrong, guys? Like, what's wrong? And they were like, who are you? Like, up until now, it's been really fun and you've been so supportive. And suddenly you've turned into this stiff, militant salesperson. I was like, oh, okay. And that's what I mean. Back then, I was very inexperienced. To me, in my mind, I broke it down. I segmented it. Great stuff, great value. Oh, I'm selling. Yes. I mean, that's just like exaggeration. Not at all. If you do 1 to 6 right, yeah, then 7 is very easy. It's an extension of the conversation. It's an extension of the presentation. It's not this big gooey, right, that people feel. I get that feeling of going weird when I start selling. Exactly. And if you do 1 to 6 right, it actually flows very easily. And you'll see an example of that a bit later. Is that making sense, people? Right? Just going to pop out to see if you have any questions about the structure, or actually just unmute yourself and ask a question if you have any, or put it in the chat box about the structure, or you need me to recap something, because there's not actually a lot more after this. So What are your questions about structure? And I need to speak about the 10-10-10. That will really help you. So, any questions? Oh, hello, Joe and Teresita. Hello, Ronki, Thomas. It's nice to see you all. Alistair, Nikki. Hello. Yeah, no questions? No questions? All right. So, did anything of this? Let me just double check. Comes out there. Cool. So that was the signature talk. Is there anything you need me to recap or go over again or explain? Or did you get it all? Give me a why if you got it all in the chat box, that is. Get one why? Cool. Great content. Thank you. I'm so clear that everyone's got it. I like it. Cool. Awesome. Well, I'll also put this up on the YouTube channel as well. I'll Speak to Influence YouTube channel. So if you didn't quite catch it, you did. You can even. So that's what I'm talking about. What's very important is understanding that from the moment you're speaking, you're selling, right? Even if you're a paid speaker, you're still selling yourself as a speaker. You're selling the next booking. You're selling the next potential person booking you. So when you have a signature talk, it's from step 1 to step 7, the sales on. Now, you don't need to be pushy, slimy, weird. Yeah, if you do it properly and you sell in line with who you really are and you're integral about it, selling is just part of the conversation that you're having with your audience. Yeah, so I want you to really think about that and remember that. So that is me, and that's my section done. And in a minute, I'm going to hand it over to Janetta, who's going to do a 10-minute talk that she's going to present to you, which she's working on as well, because Janetta and Andrew are actually part of our Speak to Influence Accelerator program. And then after Janetta, you'll hear from me. And then what we're going to do after you hear from me is we're going to have an audience participation corner. That's where for 60 seconds, you can share a tip, an insight, a funny story about maybe when you spoke, and you can share that. So just let me know in the box, just say, I'd like 60 seconds, please. And then after the 60 seconds audience participation corner, Andrew's going to do a 10-minute presentation, and then we'll wrap up the night. So if you want to have 60 seconds and have the stage time to yourself, let me know. In the meantime, I am going to stop the recording, and then I'm going to start